Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Kia ora, Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, Bolt fam, can you believe it? We're like, what, a week away from training camp, just weeks away from the first preseason game of the year. Yes, oh yes, Chargers season is just around the corner. And with that, I felt it was an appropriate time to unleash one of my favorite videos of the offseason, Director's Hot Takes. I've been putting together a little list for the past several weeks, and what are some of the things I want to talk about that could happen this upcoming season? I think it's time, man. I think it's time for the Hot Takes episode, which should be a very good time. Some of which I will say include these two guys right here, Mike Williams and Quentin Johnston. You guys in the comment section below, let me know some of your hot takes for the upcoming 2023 season. It should be a very exciting one. And I will say this, guys, the Chargers, a lot like last season, but I think with more serious consequences this year, are positioned for some pretty unique narratives into the 2023 season. What I mean by that is some crazy stuff could happen, especially with the kind of roster the Chargers have available to them for one more season. But you also enter in talent like Kellen Moore and the rookies of the 2023 class. Some awesome things should be transpiring. So before we do get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, bell notification helps me out a lot, as well as let's go ahead and give a shout out to our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. If you guys want to join the best fantasy platform on the web, use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. It's a great way to support the channel and have some fun along the way. With that, let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. Directors, hot takes for the Los Angeles Chargers of the 2023 season. Maybe a part one, who knows? Maybe we'll do a part two. I got a lot of stuff that I want to talk about, but this is the time to declare some of the big things that you think the Chargers could accomplish, even players individually throughout the 2023 season. It should be a very exciting one. There's a couple of them on here that I will tease for the part two video, which I do plan on making possibly in the next week or so. So let's jump right into it. The first topic of which I know a lot of Chargers fans are expecting to see this man somewhere on the video. We're going to go ahead and start with him, man. Justin Herbert. Now, there's a lot of ways that you can form a hot take around the Chargers starting quarterback, the best starting quarterback to begin their career in the NFL from rookie in the first 4 years in NFL history. Now, Justin Herbert going into that year for a lot on his shoulders in terms of what the expectations are from the Bolt fam, as well as what the chances of the Chargers to succeed behind him and propelling them towards more wins on his shoulders as well. But the big hot take I wanted to revolve around in Justin Herbert this season is I think there's a legitimate shot for Justin Herbert to be the passing king. This is going to be the first section here. Justin Herbert, the passing king. Now, like I said, I think there's a legitimate shot that Herbert has a monster season in 2023. And again, a lot of this has to do because the table has been set in certain ways. And for the Chargers in particular, for Justin Herbert, I think his weapons plus some changes in terms of the offense could really equal a magical season for the four-year quarterback. Now, his receiving core is going to be probably the biggest thing that I push forward, that and the OC, right? His receiving core is as good as any in the entire league. You guys remember that video we put out maybe a week ago or so now, where the Chargers are kind of on that like last chance, the all or nothing. It's because this Chargers roster is assembled in such a way that it's just oozing superpower from a lot of different positions on the roster. And one of the biggest ones, in my opinion, is that wide receiver position, right? You got Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston. The list goes on, right? And that's all for Justin Herbert to use at his disposal, not to mention adding the speed threats, which is a very, very big deal for this offense. The Chargers and its fans likely very frustrated the past couple of seasons because we just could not throw deep. The deep attack never really developed, and I think partially that's due to the fact that the Chargers just didn't have a lot of speed on the roster to utilize Justin Herbert's big arm. Now with the addition of Quentin Johnston, who should be playing a big role in that deep game, as well as Darius Davis, you can also sprinkle in a little bit of Jalen Guyton as well, which the Chargers were without all of last season. I think the Chargers' deep game has has as good as anybody shot as anybody to really develop into something very special and lethal, and maybe even one of those trademarks of a Justin Herbert 2023 year. That deep passing attack, very deadly, and especially with the tools that he now has available to him. Now, last season, we have to remember, Justin Herbert, you could already say he's close to the passing king, right? I think second in the entire league with just over 4,700 yards last season. That was behind a very interesting narrative. You guys remember what happened last year? Raise your hand if you remember the Chargers and its receivers dropping like flies, not just once, but several times throughout the course of the 2022 season. It was a very roughed up wide receiver unit. You guys remember that? I think it was after week 1, Keenan Allen goes down, doesn't come back for very many weeks. Mike Williams was up and down throughout the season. We ended up missing him for that playoff game. Very costly for us as well. Despite all of that, Justin Herbert still put up 4,700 yards, second best in the entire league, while also passing for 500 yards to 6 different receivers. What I mean by that is that 6 different receivers on the Chargers roster put up at least 500 or more yards, which is absolutely insane. You'll rarely see that in the NFL. And that just speaks to Justin Herbert's ability to find the open man, not take favorites for the most part if he can help it, and just move the ball downfield. This was behind a terrible Joe Lombardi offense, many injuries. I do believe that this season, again, knock on wood, if health isn't an issue for Herbert or his weapons, I think he's got as good a shot as anybody to derail, or I should say dethrone a Patrick Mahomes for the #1 passing yard king in the NFL. Now, another big reason, and this is going to blow some of your guys' minds, why I think Justin Herbert, in my opinion at least, could be the league leader, is going to be because of his brand new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is going to unlock insane potential for Justin Herbert in this new offense. And this is what I mean by that. Last season, you guys remember Joe Lombardi, putrid, the check down kind of offense, underneath passing attack. It worked in some ways, but for the most part, very lackluster, uninspired, and not very exciting to watch for Chargers fans. This year, that's going to change, and that's due to Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore walked into a very similar situation just years ago with the Dallas Cowboys. So similar, as a matter of fact, I got to show you guys some metrics here, okay? In 2016, the Dallas Cowboys would draft a Dak Prescott who stepped onto the field and had a pretty spectacular rookie season, logging 3,600 passing yards and 23 touchdowns. Definitely not too bad. Through the course of his first 3 seasons, he would post over 3,000 yards, having a very nice 2018 season. You guys want to know what happened here in 2019, however? In 2019, the Dallas Cowboys would promote their then head coach, or their then quarterbacks coach, to offensive coordinator. And that man's name was Kellen Moore. Look what happened in that season. All of a sudden, Dak Prescott would make a jump of 1,000 yards, 1,100 yards, from 3,885 yards to 4,902 yards. Can you guys believe that? Now, his influence on Prescott, very obvious, right? Honestly, he comes in, he has this new system. He's bringing in, a pretty decent, quarterback in Dak Prescott, and just pushing him even further over the edge. Right? Again, first 3 years, let's say an average about 3,500 yards. Still very, very nice for first 3 years of a quarterback's career. Almost 5,000 yards in the first season with Kellen Moore just proves how good of an offensive coordinator we've got in the Chargers organization all of a sudden. And again, when you're talking about parallels, it's kind of crazy. How many seasons does Justin Herbert have under his belt right now? 3. And how many of those seasons were pretty spectacular? I would say all of them. What's even crazier is that, no disrespect to Dak Prescott, who's been a great quarterback, but Justin Herbert's ceiling is higher. He posted better numbers in his first 3 years by a lot. And all of a sudden, he's getting the same Kellen Moore treatment. I think a pretty monstrous number is on our hands if the Chargers and Kellen Moore can really mold Justin Herbert to what he wants. I think Herbert's ceiling, again, higher than Dak Prescott. The situation is perfect. I don't know. I feel like Herbert's going to lead the league. And again, I'm going to put some numbers down again. I'm going to spitball, but I am going to throw down some numbers. You guys are welcome to do so in the comment section below. I think Justin Herbert leads the league with around 5,200 yards, similar to a Patrick Mahomes this last season, and proves to the NFL that this new offense behind Kellen Moore is one of the most dangerous in the entirety of the NFL. I do that. I don't know if he's going to lead the league in touchdowns in terms of passing. That's not something that you see a monstrous number from the Dallas Cowboys offense, but I still think it's going to be a very respectable number too, guessing around 35. 35 touchdowns, over 5,000 yards. That's a great season for any quarterback in the NFL, and I think that Justin Herbert's about to have a very magical season behind the power of his superstar wide receivers as well as the new system of Kellen Moore. Next up, hot take number 2. Oh, this one's exciting, man. I took one of my old thumbnails for this one from the draft. This one's exciting. Okay, here you go. You guys can tell me if I'm crazy in the comment section. Again, no disrespect meant for anybody on this photo here. All right, my hot take: the Chargers will have 2 1,000-yard receivers, and one of them is going to be Quentin Johnston. Is that a hot take? I think that's kind of a hot take, right? For one, it says that maybe somebody doesn't quite reach that benchmark this season. Could it be the aging Keenan Allen? I don't know about that. Could it be the Mike Williams, who might have a little bit of his role taken from a Quentin Johnston? I don't know. Let's talk about QJ, the player, first, though, him individually. Now, as we talked about Justin Herbert, the table being perfectly set for him with Kellen Moore and these guys, the receivers, offering him an opportunity at a 5,000-yard season, I feel like, once again, the table has been set perfectly for another individual on this offense, Quentin Johnston. I think QJ is in for a wild ride in his rookie season. First off, Quentin Johnston landing in a great spot, right? A high-powered offense with a great quarterback / offensive coordinator combo. There's going to be some opportunities for some big plays. And when you watch Quentin Johnston with his time at TCU, he was kind of that big play guy. And that's what the Chargers want out of him, I do believe. That's what the Chargers are going to get. Not to mention the other things that he brings to the offense that the Chargers sorely needed. The yak concept behind the wide receivers kind of not really existent with this unit for a long time. The yak yard's all of a sudden there. The deep ball threat, again, not the fastest wide receiver in the league by far, but he knows how to work that part of the field very well. And then, and speaking of working that part of the field, he works every part of the field pretty well. Underneath, intermediate, deep. This guy just knows how to get open. He's been proving it throughout the course of the offseason so far. Now, Herbert, we know, passes to the open man a lot. That's how he was able to get 5 or 6 different receivers with 500 yards or more last season, right? I think QJ has a prime chance to get open for Justin Herbert more often than not. And it's kind of crazy to think about, right? Especially in this photo. In an offense that features Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, you think that targets would be hard to come by for a rookie. But it actually should prove the opposite, in my opinion. And it's going to be because of opposing teams' defenses for the most part and the quarterback that you're working with. Now, with opposing DBs scrambling to keep up with the star-studded duo of Keenan and Mike, who's left to cover QJ? I think most teams that now, I would say good defenses at this point in the NFL would feature 2 or 3 pretty decent DBs. And I think one of them usually is a safety. But at that point, who's covering who? I feel like, again, with the top 2 guys, let's say your corner 1 and your corner 2, having to cover Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, it's going to leave Quentin Johnston free to face up against some of the league's, let's say, lesser talent. And again, I'll put that in quotations because these are all NFL caliber players. But you are talking about your corner 3 or a safety or someone maybe that normally wouldn't be going up against a talent, even at the rookie level, as a Quentin Johnston. This could get QJ way more opportunities than we think. Because, again, Herbert's going to throw to that open man. And if you got 2 guys, let's say, Keenan and Mike are going to get theirs. Let's all be honest about that. They're going to get theirs. And if you guys are wondering, I think Keenan Allen is going to go for over 1,000 again this season. I think Kellen Moore, if you look at the kind of offense he's ran with the Dallas Cowboys, that Keenan Allen / Amari Cooper role tends to thrive in this system. I would look at a Mike Williams as more as like a Michael Gallup kind of situation there too, which will be very involved. But when you look at the skill set of a Quentin Johnston, it reminds me a lot of CeeDee Lamb a little bit too. And if you guys remember, his first season in the NFL, CeeDee Lamb, he did nearly go for 1,000 yards in his rookie year. And that was with a Dak Prescott and maybe a slightly worse situation on the offense. I think that slight better situation on the offense for QJ could push him over the edge, push him over the top, I should say, a little bit. Now, in a similar situation, what we're talking about with the DBs, right? You got your first corner and your second corner on Keenan and Mike. We've seen that situation a couple of times throughout the past couple of seasons. Maybe not too much because of the injuries last year, but a man named Josh Palmer has had some opportunity to get let loose, and he's done pretty well with it. Now, even when Keenan and Mike are on the field, Palmer, he would reel around in a good day at around 50 yards, right? And he was swapped out a lot. I think Quentin Johnston is going to play a majority of his snaps at wide receiver 3, right? I think he's going to be on the field more often than not. I don't know how often he's going to be switched out. If you're going to see more receivers out there, I think the Chargers play a little bit more 5 wide this year. I think we saw, a good amount of that with the Cowboys in the past several years. I think QJ is going to average in and around 60 yards a game. I really do. And that's, again, maybe not a spectacular number for some people out there, but for a rookie, that's actually pretty spectacular. And again, that averages out. You're going to have games where he's maybe over 100. You're going to have games where maybe he's a bit under that. But for the most part, I think he averages in and around 60 yards his rookie year. So for Quentin Johnston, again, the hot take being, I think 2 receivers go for 1,000 yards. I think Mike Williams could get close. I think he's going to have a very specific role with the offense that maybe doesn't push him towards the yardage so much. But I think the 2 receivers over 1,000 is going to be Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. And I think Quentin Johnston, in terms of stats, if you guys want to know, it is a little bit like barely over 1,000, but for me, I'm going to give him around 1,050 yards and 6 touchdowns, which is very respectable. And a lot of that is working the deep part of the field. That's a fantastic rookie season for any player coming into the NFL, and it's one that gives the Chargers a lot of options going into 2023. So you guys let me know if you like that hot take. I think Quentin Johnston's going to go for over 1,000 yards in his rookie season. All right? Next up, here's a hot take. Maybe you guys are tired of hearing of this from me, but I think, again, I don't see it talked about enough. And this next hot take is going to be Xanders World. We're just going to call it Xanders World. Okay, and again, I get it. I'm more hype on this idea than maybe most people. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but I think this is so specific and important to the Kellen Moore narrative that I'm going to keep pushing it, right? I think Kellen Moore would be wise to unleash a Xander Horvath in 2023. And here's why. The Chargers, despite, bringing in a Kellen Moore, who likely is going to need specific tools to craft an offense around Justin Herbert to unleash him, one of which being a very good run game. That's something that's very underrated with the Dallas Cowboys that really helped Dak Prescott out, especially in that first season with Kellen Moore. I think that run game is very important, and the Chargers did not sign a true bruising back this last season. If you take a look at the Chargers roster, not really a lot of players that play that role for the Bolts. Right? Maybe the closest you could argue is Isaiah Spiller, who could be much more involved this season. But I think we already have a great option for someone to play that role, short yardage role. And I think, again, it's Xander Horvath. Xander's not your typical fullback in the NFL. We have to remember that. He plays maybe like a tight end, running back kind of hybrid role, of course, a fullback as well. But it's because his athletic metrics are so crazy, his RAS score. This guy's one of the freakiest athletes that the Chargers have drafted in a long time, be it in the 7th round because of his position. That doesn't change the fact that he could definitely be used to those strengths. And I think under Kellen Moore, we can see more opportunities for that. Kellen Moore, in my opinion, needs to be that guy that plays a similar role to, like, say, an Ezekiel Elliott. Not featured, obviously, but in specific situations. And I think Xander's going to shock us fans in his first year with Kellen Moore. Nothing crazy, but very involved is what I'm trying to get at. In Kellen Moore's first season with the Dallas Cowboys, his ground game was dominant, okay? And that's something that I really feel like needs to be pushed forward in the narrative for the Chargers this season. In order for, Quentin Johnston and Justin Herbert and all these guys to be successful, the ground game needs a significant boost. In order to do that, you need to become a little bit more traditional. I think Austin Eckler definitely can handle a lot of that, but you need guys for certain situations. I think Josh Kelly can be good for some of those too. I think Isaiah Spiller could be very good for some of those too. But in my opinion, Zeke was a great tool for him because of his size and strength, which produced 14 total touchdowns. Okay, and you can maybe ask yourself how many of those came in the red zone, in and around the goal line. I would say quite a few of them did. Now, Eckler is still this team's running back 1. I'm not going to question that even a little bit, but I do see Xander, getting rolled out a lot more in short yardage situations, including at the goal line. So, again, maybe we start seeing Xander handed the ball off here and there a little bit. Maybe we start seeing Xander in those 3rd down situations, 4th down situations, get trusted a little bit more. We saw the beginnings of that last season where the Chargers had rolled him out, especially as a receiver, scoring 2 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. I think that potential still exists as a utility back, still throw to him a lot, but I want to see that Xander Horvath ground and pound power game to flourish with the Kellen Moore offense. So go ahead and give me 250 total yards, which again doesn't seem like a lot, but also 6 touchdowns for Xander Horvath this year. I know some of you are going to scream, those are vulture numbers, which in a way they could kind of be, but that also does push us towards more of a winning narrative. The Chargers have that tool, that axe, that drill or whatever you want to say that can just get through that line at the goal line and put up more points, touchdowns. I need that size and that strength put on display, and I think it fits very, very well with Kellen Moore's offense. Maybe from a position not a lot of people see coming. Oh, the Chargers didn't sign Kareem Hunt, or the Chargers didn't sign Ezekiel Elliott. I think you can use Xander in a very similar way. So that's my hot take. I'm going to say Xander, 250 yards, 6 touchdowns, basically saying he'll be a bit of a ground and pound third down kind of guy. All right? Next up, this is a pretty big one, guys. And again, it's a kind of a sour topic for some Chargers fans, and I get it, all right? It was a letdown last season. Chargers go out, they put their necks on the line, they sign a big, free agent, which they're not, characteristically, they don't really do very often, and it bit them in the butt. J.C. Jackson, first several weeks with the Chargers, really struggling to get his footing, right? Despite having a great offseason, looked fantastic in camp, he just could not keep up. Now, how much of that was because of the injury? I should say the surgery, recovery from surgery. You tell me. How much of it was because maybe he was brought back a little bit too early from that recovery? You tell me. There's a lot of things behind the J.C. Jackson narrative that I feel are very circumstantial to his demise in 2022. If you guys want a deeper input on that, I did put out a video about a month ago called J.C. Jackson, the return or the rise from the ashes, something like that. Definitely go check that out. In my opinion, my hot take for this video, which I will stand by, because I do think there's a significant chance that this actually happens, is that he does rise from the ashes and have a very nice comeback season. Do I think he'll win Comeback Player of the Year? I think that's DeMar Hamlin's, if we're being honest. If that man can come back and honestly, do pick up where he left off before that tragedy, I think it's his. But I think you got to throw J.C. Jackson's name in the hat, because I do think that potential is there. Take a look at the defense. And one of the biggest examples I like to take a look at as well in this narrative is Vato, Michael Davis. You guys remember in his first season in the Brandon Staley defense, which is a very complicated defense, might I remind you, he struggled a lot in very similar and familiar ways to the way we witnessed J.C. Jackson struggle in 2022. Fans were calling for Vato to be benched, which eventually I think he was. Fans were calling for him to be cut even, to be a cut candidate the following season because he just did not fit the system. What does Michael Davis do the following season? He comes out here and proves to be one of the best underrated corners in the entirety of football. I think that potential definitely lies with a J.C. Jackson. These guys, man, again, going from a system very familiar and Taylor, built from the Bill Belichick system with the New England Patriots. Yeah, you're going to see a lot of success from DBs with that. We see that every year with different, no-name corners in the New England Patriots system. It doesn't mean that talent doesn't exist outside of that system. Could you reach those peaks again? Yeah, but I don't think you need to. I think J.C. Jackson in his second year is going to prove two things. One, the injury is something that he can bounce back from. Significant injury, one that would sideline many players for the rest of their career. From what we've seen in his IG, what we've seen in interviews and stuff like that, I think he'll be back. But two, and maybe even more important, I think J.C. Jackson proves to us that he's going to have a similar bounce back to what we saw with Michael Davis. And I think that's going to be back to the tune of, let's say, my hot take here, 6 interceptions. Sure, Mr. INT won't go back to his 8 interception glory days, but it's going to be close, in my opinion. I think he's going to be back. I think he's going to be a great fit, and I honestly think that he's going to pick up close to where he left off with the New England Patriots. This is a very talented football player. A lot of us just tend to forget when we see a season like we did last year with the Chargers in 2022. All right? Next up. My next hot take, this segment is going to be titled 3 Weeks to Henley, okay? Now, you guys can probably guess where I'm getting at with that, but let me set the table here just a little bit. Now, the Chargers, middle linebacker, right? A position a lot of us maybe sweating over a little bit last season, or this last offseason, because we didn't know what was going to happen after Drew Tranquill left. That sucked. A lot of us came to love Drew Tranquill, but honestly, the Chargers and the way they view the position, it doesn't seem like they're going to get paid anytime soon. Maybe there's an offer, maybe there's not. I don't know. The fact of the matter being the Chargers now had almost nobody at linebacker outside of Kenneth Murray, okay? Then they go out and they sign a man by the name of Eric Kendricks. And Eric Kendricks, in my opinion, fits what the Chargers want to do at linebacker. We've talked about this in the past. Chargers want their linebackers to cover. They double down by going into the draft and drafting this man, Dan Henley, who is one of the best, if not the best draft, or the best coverage linebacker in the entire draft. That speaks volumes to me as a Chargers fan. The Chargers want to establish a new identity at that position, and it's going to be the ability to cover, to play in coverage, okay? As of right now, the Chargers have two guys at the top. You've got Eric Kendricks, who should be your linebacker one, and then, of course, Kenneth Murray, first-round pick for the Chargers, who has not really been living up to expectations. Let me defend him by saying I don't think the Chargers have been using him to his strengths. I think that maybe, when he was drafted, there was a vision to mold him into a player like that. I don't really think it ever happened. Now, in this hot take 3 weeks to Henley, this is my hot take. I think it's only going to take Dan Henley 3 weeks to jump that spot of Kenneth Murray and become the Chargers inside linebacker 2. And it's for the very, very simple fact that the Chargers are going to need that position to cover a lot. I especially think, with, how Derwin James is going to be moving around. Now you got Eric Kendricks in there. You're going to have to swap in and out. I think they're going to need a guy with that skill set. I think more often than not, they're going to need a guy with that skill set. And I think Henley offers you more of that than a Kenneth Murray, even at this point. Now, he's going to have to earn that right. Of course, being a rookie, not even a first or second round pick, he's going to have to earn that right by having to, jump that within the first couple of weeks. But, what it was, honestly, in my opinion, thinking it would take half the season, I honestly don't think it's going to take that long. I think Dan Henley is going to become your inside linebacker 2, jumping Kenneth Murray very early in the season. And I think that pair of Eric Kendricks and Henley is going to look very awesome. As a matter of fact, that franchise guy, one of the best, let's say, like draft minds in the YouTube community, he compared Dan Henley to Eric Kendricks very early. And seeing those two guys play together, flourish, with that kind of exposure to his experience, that's going to, really, really help his development. And I think it's going to speak dividends in game day as well because of what they're asking these guys to do. So I think Dan Henley, he's going to be a starter very, very quickly. Not overtaking Eric Kendricks, but certainly overtaking Kenneth Murray. Next up, only a couple more guys, and these next two are hot, sizzling. All right. In this next segment, we are going to call this Bosa, Mack, and Tooley run amok. All right. Run wild. It's nuts to me how much potential is oozing from the Chargers pass rush unit this year. Okay. This is behind the fact that last year we were already psyched out of our freaking minds about the potential of Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack. Of course, that did not work out. And that was because of injury, right? It's not because of lack of talent. You guys go out there and you look how they performed together in the games that they were on the field at the same time. They had the potential of hitting 40-plus sacks, right? Insane. That's obviously an exaggeration. You're not going to see that, consistently throughout the season. But hey, let's say they get close to 30, right? That's still very, very crazy. Now, I don't know if that's going to be what I'm asking from that duo this season, especially now that we're adding to the fact we've got a Tuli Tuipulotu in the mix now too. Second round pick who I think's potential is massive, not just now, but going into the future with the Chargers. This trio is among the best we've ever had in Chargers franchise history. And again, short memories, a lot of us are going to forget the potential of Bosa and Mack. I'm telling you guys right now, if they can stay on the field at the same time, which is a big if, that's a big condition, but if they can, mark my words, they're going to be some of the most lethal players in the entirety of the NFL, some of the most feared at that position in the entirety of the NFL. Now you're mixing in a Tuli Tuipulotu, which might I remind Chargers fans and NFL fans, this position among a lot of the others on the in the NFL probably rotates the most, maybe even the most. And you're going to want a fresh guy in there to keep that pass rush consistent. Having Tuli in there is a pretty big deal. And I think this is going to make a very big difference. Bosa and Mack staying healthy, huge. I think those guys put up double-digit sacks each this season, but more importantly, keep that pressure very consistent from both sides. You can't really shift resources one way or the other. You got a beast on each end. Then the consistency comes in with Tuli. This unit, I feel, can propel themselves to a top 5 sack unit in the NFL. The Chargers weren't even close last season. I think they had 40, maybe less total sacks last year. It wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't the worst we've ever seen. It was better than a lot of us expected with Joey Bosa out for so long, but it could have been a lot better. If these guys can stay healthy and that rotation can stay healthy, give me a team total of in and around 50 sacks. I'll go ahead and put a specific number down. 52 sacks is what I'm going to say if this unit can stay healthy. As a team, right? As a team, 52 sacks is pretty crazy. If you guys want specifics, give me 10.5 sacks for Khalil Mack. Give me 13.5 sacks for Joey Bosa, which every year he's come back from injury has been astounding. I think that's a pretty realistic number there. And then for a rookie, I think Tuli, honestly, give me 7. Give me 7 sacks for the rookie Tuli Tuipulotu, which is crazy from a second-round pick. But I think that rotation is going to be healthy enough, and I think the situation is going to be very good for Tuli. He's going to have a really good player opposite him no matter what. Not to mention, this dude is learning, all of the tricks from both of these. Was 2 of the best to ever play the position in training camp this year. I think Tuli's being set up for a lot of success, man. I'm very excited to see him play. Finally, at the 30-minute mark, I'm sorry, guys. I know these videos get a little bit long, but this is a very important one. My final hot take for the part 1 of the video, and this is a pretty significant one. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below, okay? My final hot take for this video, perhaps the biggest that I've done in a very long time. I think Derwin James wins Defensive Player of the Year in 2023, I guess technically 2024. I think it's Derwin James. Let me explain, okay? Perhaps my hottest take. With the pass rush, and again, I'm predicting this no matter what. I don't know if they go for 52 sacks, but I think that pass rush is going to be very healthy, right? If the pass rush is as effective as it could be, this provides huge opportunities for Derwin James, who is the centerpiece of this entire defense. Again, everyone's going to be saying health. I understand. As long as he stays healthy, the opportunities that Derwin could cash in on are huge. Now, as a lot of you Chargers fans know, Derwin is not your typical safety in the NFL. This man is roaming the entirety of the field, playing up top at safety, in the box, inside as a linebacker, right, in run support, at the edge. What do they call that? The X position as an edge blitzer to the quarterback. He plays in the slot, the star position at corner. This man is a hybrid of all positions on defense, let's say outside of the defensive line. That's huge. That's massively important. And the reason he is because how effective he is at all of those positions. This man is elite pretty much wherever you put him. And that is why he's become so pivotal to Brandon Staley, this defense, and this team as a whole. A lot of it lies on the shoulders of Derwin James, one of the most irreplaceable players in the entirety of the NFL. He's going to be attacking from every angle. I think his turnovers get a big bump this season because of the pass rush provided. Okay, and I think that's a big reason why he wins Defensive Player of the Year. Again, I feel like he should have had a shot at it last season. I think what he does maybe goes overlooked a little bit, but you got to put up some numbers in order to get the attention of the Association Football, whatever the name is, that's in charge of that award. And I think he can do it this season. Safety doesn't win very often, guys. I feel like Defensive Player of the Year is largely in part owned by linebackers, or pass rushers, I should say. Those sack numbers, very impressive. And to be fair, there's a lot of really impressive players in today's day and age at pass rush, okay? The Chargers have a couple of them, some of the best in the league. Despite that, I think the Chargers and Derwin James are going to grab their attention because his situation is so unique. How many players do you see doing what Derwin James is doing? Not very many. The last safety, I think, to win Defensive Player of the Year was Troy Polamalu, one of the best. And again, a lot of people get offended at that, like, Derwin James isn't Troy Polamalu. I get that, but I feel like the role is in and around that realm for Derwin James. Does that make sense? Polamalu won it in 2010 with 7 interceptions, right? Great season. Obviously, the numbers don't tell and paint a full picture, but those are some of the statages that stood out in those seasons for the safeties, okay? Polamalu, 7 interceptions, crazy season in 2010. Before that, it was Bob Sanders, former San Diego Charger as well. Not in that season. He won it with the Colts. He had 96 tackles and 3.5 sacks, right? Very, very impressive. Now, Derwin James, who can do it all, I feel like needs to grab the attention of the association very soon. Because just last season, he logged 115 tackles, 4 sacks, and 2 interceptions. That's absurd. That's absolutely absurd. If you were to ask me what position those stats play, I would have told you linebacker. But no, this man's playing safety. A very good one at that. I feel like Derwin James, with the situation he's being put in this season, honestly, guys, a lot of people hate on Brandon Staley. I get it. He makes some boneheaded mistakes. But in the end, I think his defense is proving to grow and get better every year. And I think with the personnel that he's rolling out with this season is going to give him one of the best versions of that defense, maybe even since he coached the Los Angeles Rams, to the best defense in the league that season. So for Derwin James in this situation, the pass rush is going to be getting in there, quarterback running for his life. He's going to be tossing, balls to the stands, hopefully, and then who's there? Maybe even a Derwin James. So in this season, give me 117 tackles, 5.5 sacks, just 1.5 more than he got last season, and 6 interceptions. Let's go ahead and throw in there 11 passes defended as well. Okay, those are some serious numbers. Those are some maybe best of all time numbers at the safety position. Is that enough to win Defensive Player of the Year? I think so. Is it far-fetched that he puts up that kind of statage? I don't think so. Sure, his career best in interceptions, which was 3, would have to be doubled, right? But the situation is set for that. The pass rush getting that huge boost is set for that. JC's return could be set for that. We also have Asante Samuel, Avato roaming around back there, is set up for that. I feel like the table, again, a lot of this, and the narratives behind all these hot takes, the table has been set. And specifically for Derwin James, I think it's more than possible that he wins Defensive Player of the Year. If everybody holds up in their health and the plan of attack on the defense is executed the way that we're hoping it will be, I think Derwin's going to be the ultimate benefactor of a lot of those things. So you guys let me know in the comment section below. Do you think those numbers would be enough to win Defensive Player of the Year? And do you think they're possible by a Derwin James? My answer to both of those, absolutely yes. Also in the comment section below, please lay out some of your biggest hot takes for the 2023 season. I do plan on doing a part 2 to this, and I want to include a couple from you guys in the comment section. So please let me know some of your hot takes. I've got a lot more listed out here that we didn't get enough time to talk about today. A lot involving the rest of the results of the season, including against our division rivals. But you guys have to wait and see for that. It should be a pretty interesting and fun one. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Good luck to Derwin James and everyone out there. If you guys did enjoy this, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. If you did enjoy this content, we'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Defensive Player of the Year, first safety to win it since 2010. Give me Derwin James.